Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, the Two Giant Goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me, Rob, and we're here to talk about some of those running backs.
We're running with the football.
Running to the NFL draft.
So, guys, this is usually one of the more exciting groups of every NFL draft is the running back. Just let's be honest, there's usually like this team of running backs, so to speak, there that will go and kind of hit the ground running and do pretty decent their rookie year. This may not be that year. So let's not, kid ourselves when we got here. We have literally a crop of people that literally most of these guys are probably going to be running backs by committee. There's not really a lot of studs here, guys. I'm not trying to like downplay it and like, make it go. Maybe I shouldn't watch the show. No, watch the show, damn it. But just be prepared that it's not quite as good as, some of the past years have been. I do think there are some diamonds in the rough, as they would say in the Latin. And I do think that there's some people that are being overlooked, and there's some people that might just need some time to kind of get a little more seasoning here. You got to kick up a notch. Bam. And
as long as we're not getting another Eric Gray.
Oh God. Don't even mention his name. I still hate that move. Out of all the moves that Joe Schoen has done, I think that's the one I hate the most. Only because he point blank admitted that he reached because he wanted a punt returner.
Yeah. Meanwhile, during the draft, you and I are live. We're like, who?
What? And then Puka Nacua was sitting there.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, granted, every team passed up on him. I can't blame Joe Schoen for passing up on Puka Nacua. It's not. I'm not going that crazy, but I'm just saying there was like other options that are legitimate players in the NFL you could have taken. So, well, let's hope he doesn't make those same mistakes there. Let's hope he gets. I do think we're going to draft a running back. I still think that. I think they want to do a running back by committee, and to do a running back by committee, crazy thing you have to have.
A committee,
yes. And right now we have Devin Singletary, and that's about it. Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray. Yeah, we're kind of lacking in the running back department here, so I'm fully expecting us to grab some running backs here and get some things rolling here with these guys here. So let's break into our top 10 running backs entering the 2024 NFL draft here. Starting off with, of course, number 10, Will Shipley. Oh, yes, Will Shipley here. Comes out of Clemson, 5'11", 206 pounds, 21 years old. This past season, 12 games, 167 rushes for 827 yards. That's a 5-yard per carry average there. 5 touchdowns, 31 receptions, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 72.9 PFF rating. Last year, 22, I should say. I keep saying last year. This is not last year anymore. This is now 24. In the year 2024.
2022 is 2 years away.
I know. So in 22, 14 games, 210 rushes, 1,182 yards, 5.6 yards per carry average, 15 touchdowns. That's an end zone beast right there. 38 receiving receptions for 242 yards. In the pros, tough, great vision, can bounce outside when it needs to. And that's a key thing there. We talk running backs. There are guys who just love to bounce it outside for the sake of bouncing it outside, a la Saquon Barkley. We talked about that how many years when he was here. This is a guy who seems to have a pretty good idea of when you should just take the couple yards you can get or try to bounce it outside for a bigger run. He's got a pretty high football IQ, and he's also a pretty good receiver. The problem with him really is he's smaller. Again, 206 pounds. You kind of land under 30 pounds on him from NFL size, at least typical NFL size. Who knows nowadays? All the rules are out the windows.
I was about to say, listen, in this modern NFL, he puts on 15, 20 pounds. Like, you're still a massive, running back.
Just hang out with Eddie Lacy, you'll be fine.
Going to the Golden Corral.
He's got the corral. Poor breakaway speed is the other thing as well. He's not that home run threat kind of guy there. He's just a solid, smart running back. If you're looking for somebody to be part of a committee, not necessarily be a stud, and just be a solid, smart running back, this is a guy that fits that exact category. I think he'll probably go in like the 3rd or 4th round at that point there. And again, he'll be part of a committee. He'll probably be this guy who gets like 400 or 500 yards a season kind of guy. Never, have the crazy 1,000-yard seasons. But there's a place in the NFL for people like that. There always is. Short-handed, smart football players that may not have all the greatest athleticism in the world, but they have all the stuff you can't teach. And sometimes those guys even become like assistant coaches on the team eventually too. People forget that. And they kind of help the younger ones further on down the line as well. That's the exact kind of guy I expect Will Shipley to be in the NFL, regardless of who takes him there. Yeah.
Good 3rd down, 3rd and short play action. This is a guy I put in the backfields.
Yeah. Again, he's gonna be a good guy in that committee, as long as you're not expecting too much of him, because he's gonna have limitations because of that. Athleticism he just lacks, then you're good to go here. So, all righty. Next up, number 9. Ray Davis. Here we go. And this guy is a potential diamond in the rough, guys. This guy, I feel like he's going to be that boom or bust kind of guy. Just 5'8", 211 pounds. Definitely the little tinier kind of guy there, which is something the NFL's been doing more now, like we talked about. Played this last year in Kentucky. Prior to that, played 2 seasons at Vanderbilt. And then prior to that, played 2 seasons at Temple. This guy's been doing a national tour of colleges, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he is also, I believe, the first running back to run for over 1,000 total yards for 2 different SEC teams. That's pretty impressive. So last year with Kentucky. I don't know why I say it like that. Kentucky. Well, I hear they have some chicken over there.
some modified chicken.
Some spices.
23 herbs.
I don't know why. I just picture everybody as Kentucky from either like the Hatfields and the McCoys or Colonel Sanders. Like there's like 2 classes of people, like either the really, really poor inbred or the really, really good chicken tycoons.
And there's also a lot of bourbon out there.
There's a lot of what?
Bourbon.
I thought you said perverts out there.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not one to judge, but
we just lost all of our Kentucky listenership for this episode. Oh well. Anyway, 24 years old. Last year, 13 games, 172 rushes for 990 yards, the 5.8 yards per carry average, 12 touchdowns, 25 receptions, 266 yards, and 5 touchdowns. In 22, so I didn't say last year this time, 12 games, 232 rushes for 1,042 yards. That's a 4.5 yards per carry average, 5 touchdowns, 29 receptions, 169 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So this is a guy that's done some good things here now at 2 different, like I said, 2 different SEC schools and excelled at 3 schools overall. So when you see a guy like this and you go 24 years old, that's the one that kind of scares me. He's 24 years old. So let's say I sign him to a 4-year deal. He's 28 at the end of the 4-year deal.
And that's normally what we've been saying. Like, look, we're talking about Barkley.
Yeah.
That's when the running back kind of teeter off.
Yeah. So I think he has the potential to be like, that running back that has like 2 or 3 good seasons and they just kind of disappear off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
That's what I think could be Ray Davis in the right scenario, because I think he's a good player. But I think his age, coupled with his size, is going to mean it's going to be a very short flash in the pan kind of career he's going to probably have. Pros wise, he has very quick feet, very good vision. He's patient. He's got a high football IQ. He's great in short yardage. He's great in pass protection, and he's also runs some really good routes. On the cons, again, small, 5'8", guys, 211 pounds. Like, this guy is small for a corner, let alone running back.
Yeah.
There's some punters bigger than this guy. He's not a home run.
The average defensive linebacker is going to have 100 pounds in him.
But he's also 5'8". You're not going to see him coming because the lineman will block him.
Touche.
He's not a home run threat. That's one thing you got to keep in mind with this guy. He's not going to be that guy. He's going to be the guy who's going to get 4 or 5 yards at a clip like that to keep on going. He's got an average burst. In other words, if there's a hole, he may get a couple of yards out of it, but he's not the guy who's going to slip all the way through to that second level and escape and get a touchdown. He's not that guy. And as long as you're okay understanding those limitations, and maybe have a change of pace back who's a really quick guy, and you can kind of go back and forth between these two guys, you're good to go. But something tells me this guy's going to end up having a decent NFL career. I got a very short one, but I just think he's going to have a decent one where I'm not saying he's going to be like a 1,300 rushing yard kind of guy, but he's going to be a 700-800 yard kind of guy, I think. Yeah, at least for a few years. It's going to be, but again, it's going to be short term, and that's why I have him down this low at number 9. Because you're dealing with guys that are 3-4 years younger than him. That's a huge difference when you're talking about running backs. 24, yeah, you're at this point you should be breaking out of your rookie deal here soon.
I was going to say you're close to your rookie deal.
Yeah, he stayed in college just a wee bit longer than most people did. But again, he went to Kentucky this year, NILs for this year. He probably made some money. So good for him if he made some money. On to Number 8. 8 is great.
Ocho.
Raylan Allen. Oh yeah. Now we're talking young. Now you're talking young. This guy's like almost a different generation than Ray Davis. That's that much of a difference. Like 6'1", 235 pounds. So again, now you're talking true running back size. He's 20 years old, guys, and he just turned 20 in January. So it's not like he's like going to be like, 21 tomorrow, which still put him at a 3-year difference between him and Ray Davis. This guy is going to be underage to drink the entire season. Like, he'll get out of his rookie deal at 24 years old. That's pretty crazy. Last year for Wisconsin, he had 11 games, 181 rushes for 984 yards to the 5.4 yard per carry average, 12 touchdowns, 28 receptions, 132 yards. That's a 74.0 PFF grade there. Prior year, 12 games, 230 rushes, 1,242 yards, 5.4 yard per carry average still, 11 touchdowns. 13 receptions for 104 yards. So here's what we're looking at with this guy. This guy is, let's say you have a true speedy guy, like an A-chain kind of guy. And I'm not suggesting the Dolphins per se. I'm just saying that kind of guy. Like, he's really good at the fast stuff. He's good as a third down receiver. He's good as, a guy who's just really quicker than everybody else in the field kind of guy. And you want somebody to be a basher. So you can get a little thunder and lightning that we used to have back in the day with Bradshaw and Jacobs. This is your Jacobs. The guy is got great power. He's great at short yardage. He breaks through tackles very well, and he's also great at pass protection. But on the bads, he's got a bad stop and start. In other words, if you want him to stop, wait a second for the hole to open up and then start to go through. He's not quick to stop and start like that. He's going to pause for a second, which makes that hole close up that much quicker.
He's like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
Slow to accelerate, slow to stop.
Yeah, and he's got no lateral speed. Like, if you want him to go east and west, you're going to be in trouble. This is a in between the tackles, right up the middle, run up the gut kind of guy at that point. And there's still a place in the NFL for that. I know some people don't like that necessarily. And that's part of why I have him little bit lower is because he does have limitations. He can't do the outside stuff. You saw as far as the receptions there. He's got 100 and change yards in receiving. Got half of what everybody else is going to have on this list. Basically, he's not a good receiving guy. But what he does do is he's going to bash down the middle. He's going to wear out the defensive line and the linebackers at that point. The end of the game, when you're trying to seal it up, this is the guy. When you're in that 1 yard line and you need a guy for a touchdown run, there's your guy. When you're on that 4th and 1 and you don't want to do a tush push, there's your guy. He's going to have a place in this league, and he's going to have a place in this league for probably quite a while, barring any kind of injuries because of his age. This is a guy
he's probably going to be like a young Eddie Lacy, like
young, thinner Eddie Lacy.
Yeah,
like, he's half the man Eddie Lacy is.
Was yeah.
Who knows how big Eddie Lacy is now? He's been out of the league for so long. He's been out of the league for so long. He's probably like, at this point, he's probably like on one of those a TLC, my TLC show about save my 600-pound ass.
Yeah, I used to be fit.
I used to play for the Packers. Now I'm doing is packing food down my throat.
Yeah,
but it's like, this is a guy that, like I said, I think that especially the way defenses are set up now, you get smaller defensive tackles, smaller linebackers. This is an old school smash mouth, up the gut, gonna beat the crap out of you all throughout the game kind of running back. I love it. I really do. And I'm not suggesting, again, I'm not pretty much, there's nobody here pretty much that I'm suggesting is going to be the next, I'm trying to think who, Christian McCaffrey or Adrian Peterson or any of the greats, Derrick Henry, any of the greats of this, last 10, 15 years. None of these guys are that level. Let's be very frank. There's not a single player out here that I'm going, this is that guy. He's unstoppable. He's a high touted of a prospect. There's one guy I would have put in that category if it wasn't for a major injury, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. You know what, this guy too, like, I don't know, did you hear about the new tackling rule that might be?
Yes, the hip tackle.
Yeah.
You can't. That broke today. You can't do any more hip tackles.
Which is a little crazy to me, but like,
it's going to help running back. No, honestly, I get it and I don't get it. Like, they're trying to stop injuries. You're trying to stop injuries, and I get that part of it.
But how are you supposed to tackle people now? But a guy like this,
ask them nicely to stop.
Yeah. Hey, I got a whistle.
Where's your flag? How am I supposed to catch your flag if you don't stick that up?
But
I mean,
a tackle guy like this is grab.
And that's what I'm saying. This guy, I'm telling you, this guy is set up for the modern NFL because he does what teams are not meant to stop anymore. They're not trained to stop these big, tough guys that run down the gut. I really think that this is the guy that you're going to see, like I said, excel because of the fact, again, he does differently than, what the modern NFL does. He's massive compared to some of the guys out there. And he's only 235. That's, 15 years ago, he'd be a regular running back. He's not 260, like I think it was 265. Is that what Jacobs was at?
But 260, 265 in that ballpark.
Like, he's not that big, but he also bigger than he is.
And he's also 20, so he's got time, and he's still got room to put more weight on that frame. Just hopefully not like Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, again, this would be a guy that if we got him later, and I think he's going to be a 4th round pick. I really do.
Probably. Early 4th.
And I only put him higher than Ray Davis, who I think is going to be a 3rd rounder, because of the fact that I think he's more of a safer bet. Ray Davis has that high ceiling, low floor kind of situation to me. Whereas Braylon Allen, I feel like it's mid on both. Like, he's a safe pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's going to be.
I think when the day's over, when the years are over, Allen might have a lot more stats to show than Davis just because he was in the league that much longer.
Yeah, probably. You'll probably say that Ray Davis has a better year, but Allen has the better career.
Correct.
All right, we got numero siete, number 7 here. Let's go. Breaking out the Spanish. And I'm sorry, is it just me? But he's trying to look grimacing in that second part of the video. I'm sorry, you're not grimacing.
No, he's not.
Really, a kid trying to steal somebody's lunch money at a freaking cafeteria. You kidding me? Like, these kids nowadays. Marshawn Lloyd played this past season over at USC. Prior 3 seasons over at South Carolina. He's going coast to coast here. 5'9", 220 pounds, 23 years old. Last year at USC was 11 games, 116 rushes for 820 yards, 7.1 yard per carry average. That's pretty damn good. 9 touchdowns, 13 receptions for 232 yards, and a 81.7 PFF grade there. Prior season, again, keep in mind this is over now at South Carolina. 9 games, 111 rushes for 573 yards, 5.2 yards per carry average, 9 touchdowns, 18 receptions for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy that I gotta say, if when you talk about moving to different schools and whether or not it's the right decision, this was a right decision. 100%. He went to USC, which already had a pretty decently crowded running back. There was it was kind of like 3 or 4 guys that all they thought, okay, and these guys could start the season. And Marshawn Lloyd became their star running back, their head running back, and probably made himself an NFL draft guy. Whereas before that, he would have been like maybe a 7th rounder, maybe a guy you invite to training camp kind of guy. I think he's probably in that 4th round range at that point now. Pros wise, he's great in the open field. He's explosive. He's always moving. He's got that ability. Like, there's something about running backs when they're always got their legs moving. They can change real quick. They can figure out where they want to go. Once you stop, the fun stops as well. Okay, that's the thing. Keep those legs moving. He's also very patient. He'll wait for the spot. He'll wait for the hole to open up there. As far as his cons, he's small. Again, he's another small guy, 5'9". Got 220 pounds, but he's missed a little bit on the height there at that point. Didn't catch much. So he's not, you expect a guy who's explosive, shifty, with the legs moving. You expect that to be a guy who's running wheel routes, the screens, and all these kind of things. Again, 13 catches last year. And you can't say it wasn't a passing offense. It's USC with Caleb Williams. You think that might be considered a passing offense?
Just maybe.
Yeah, and I watched a lot of tape on him, and if a lot of these stuff that he had as far as catches were what you expect of a Caleb Williams run offense. Caleb Williams scrambling around, just happening to find this guy open. That's what it was. And it wasn't like design routes necessarily for him. It was just Caleb Williams finding him at that point. So it makes me wonder if USC just, for whatever reason, just didn't feature the running back as part of their offense in the passing game, and that he has the abilities. Because I'm pretty sure with the tape I saw almost every single one of his catches this year, and they weren't bad catches. They weren't always the greatest throws, because again, Caleb Williams likes to throw crazy throws in the run and stuff like that, and he had no problem catching him. He had a pretty good catch right there. So yeah, I think he's got the ability per se, but he hasn't had a chance to show it. So I put that in the con because he hasn't shown it, but I'm not so sure that that's as much issue as we think. The other thing we didn't get a chance to do really is pass protection. This is a guy that, again, if you watch the offense at USC specifically, and I apologize, I didn't go back to South Carolina. I was focused on this year specifically. So, but when you watch him at USC there, they just kept throwing him out in routes. So it wasn't that he didn't do it well. He just didn't do it in general. So again, I'm not going to sit there and say that he's good at that. That's something that usually you learn over time. So I think it's something he'll probably be bad at to start in the NFL. But I think that this is another guy that you put him in a group and, as being the quick change of pace. Like, if you could somehow put Marshawn Lloyd and Braylon Allen together.
Oh yeah. Oh.
That'd be a nice, young committee at that point. They're like, depending on what the Giants do the rest of free agency, listen, I wouldn't be opposed to that kind of move at that point. Get a couple of young, potential stud running backs like that have specific roles they're good at. And
you
save
your
yourself
freight train and you get yourself the little mosquito.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I said, Marshawn Lynch is one of those guys that, depending on how he develops, is going to depend on what kind of career he has. But again, he's 23 years old, so you have to consider that as part of that. He's only got a year or two to really develop. He better catch on quick, or he's going to be stuck in that committee kind of role, which I think is where his abilities are. But you always hope to be above that. That's just nature. We all do. So, all righty. Now we're going to start getting in some of the bigger names here in this year's draft here. Number 6, Trey Benson. Oh, yeah. We talked about a couple of guys that didn't necessarily have that home run threat ability. This is definitely not that guy. This is pretty much his whole game is home runs. Trey Benson from Florida State the last 2 years. Played his first 2 years over at Oregon. 6 foot even, 216 pounds, just 21 years old. This past season, he was 13 games, 156 rushes for 906 yards, the 5.8 yards per carry average, 14 touchdowns, 20 receptions for 227 yards and a touchdown, 84.2 PFF grade. The prior year in 22, it's 13 games, 154 rushes for 990 yards, 6.4 yards per carry average, 9 touchdowns, 13 receptions, 144 yards. The big thing with him is if you love a fast running back, this is your guy. He's probably the fastest running back in this draft. And he's also, surprisingly enough, very patient. He's got that good stop and start at that point there. The weird thing is, though, as fast as he is and as good as he is patient for waiting for a hole to open, he's not shifty. If he can't make it through that hole, he's going to get stopped pretty easily because he locks power. He's not the best at breaking through tackles, and he's not very shifty. He's got that straight line speed at that point, basically. And there's plenty of guys who make a good career at that kind of thing as long as they can keep their speed long term and don't get injuries in this league at that point. But I think that, again, I think he's a guy that has a place in this league. But again, if you can't break tackles, you're not good at short yardage fields, and you're kind of a one-trick pony, no matter how good of a trick it is,
you're not going to be the dude starter. You're not. You're going to be in a committee. It's exactly we just talked about before. Like, imagine Lloyd with Allen. Like, imagine Trey with Allen.
Yeah, I mean, Benson would be a good match with Allen as well. Again, Allen does the stuff that these two guys don't do, and that's what I'm saying. These guys have roles. These guys have spots they'll be in the NFL. There's no doubt about it at that point. They're legitimate NFL players. It's just a matter of, can these guys also, be okay with not being a star and being part of a committee and being part of a group? Some guys have that mentality, some don't. Some guys want to be headaches when that happens, especially if they've been a star and a stud their whole life. This is the NFL, though. Things happen. Things change.
Yeah. Everyone's a star and a stud.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he's a good player. I'm not knocking him by any means. But, I mean, even look at the receptions. 20 receptions, 13 receptions. It's not like he's getting a ton of receiving yards either. Again, he's a one-trick pony. He's a running it fast up the middle kind of guy. But if you put him on a system where you got a guy like, again, I hate to keep on bringing his name up. He just happens to be the only guy who does this need so far. But put a guy like Braylon Allen in there, let him bash up the middle, and then all of a sudden, when everybody's banged and tattered up, put Trey Benson in there trying to do the home run. That could be a hell of a duo, and it works obviously with other people as well. I'm just saying, like, there's a spot in the NFL for Benson. I'm just not so sure it's a starting role or a star role, but I think there's clearly a spot in the NFL for him.
I think so.
Yeah. All righty. Let's pay the bills real quick, and then we're going to go through some of the comments here. So if you haven't put a comment up yet and you have a thought, put them on up.
Get on in there.
Get her done.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. Buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
Oh, yeah. All righty. let's get through these comments here. We got Connor says, "Why does football have to be so far away? I hope UFL is good now. They combine XFL with USFL, which makes no sense. No X in it. X gonna give it to you."
That's what I'm saying, because X is going to give it to you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't hold much hope for the UFL. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Yeah.
I think that this is what it is. It's spring football. It's minor league football. You know, I mean, I'll put it this way: for those who love the college game, they'll probably like it because a lot of these guys were stars in college, and you probably remember the names. You know, but unfortunately, since I don't watch much college, I just watch more for the draft at the end of the season. At that point, there doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
Doesn't excite me. But there's always something going on in the NFL. Luckily, that's why we keep doing the show all year long. So, Connor says, saw this today, thought of your red ant issue. I'm not sure what this is. You saw. Is there a picture so that I can't see on this device we're using, Connor? I'm not sure.
Florida man.
Connor says, Saquon probably going to be good with Philly O-line since ours will be better. Why not keep him, especially since we got more cap? Hope we don't regret it. We're not going to regret it. I'm telling you right now, we're going to regret it this year because I think he's going to have a really good year. I really do. But the first time he gets injured and he's out for a few games or, as that line starts getting worse because a lot of those guys getting older and starting to retire like Kelsey did at that point already. Wayne Johnson's not exactly a young whippersnapper anymore either. You got to replace those guys. Everybody thinks it's that easy. Ask Dallas. Remember a couple years ago, Dallas had that dominant offensive line. They were amazing. Anybody could run them for 1,000 yards behind them. Their line's not so dominant no more. Don't get me wrong. It's still better than ours. But that's not saying. There's a Pop Warner school. There's a Pop Warner school down the road at that point. It's got a better offensive line than we do. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't think it's the wrong move. I really don't, because by the time we're going to be good, you got to give it a couple of years still for us to be good. I mean, even best case scenario for us to be a Super Bowl caliber potential team, you're talking a couple of years. And in a couple of years, Saquon's probably not Saquon no more. Best case scenario for him.
Yeah.
Hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. Guys that with his natural ability don't play into the 30s as that kind of player. And I think that they really overpaid for him. I really do. Deb says Joe Morris was 5'7", 190 pounds. Loved watching him run. Yeah, and he was an exception at his size to be able to stay, playing as long as he did. That's for sure. Because again, these smaller guys, they just don't typically, last very long in the league. Unfortunately, I mean, even Joe,
they get injury prone because of the size. When you got someone that's 330 pounds jumping on you every single day of your career, it takes a toll on you. Like it's natural. It's what's going to happen. Imagine someone that's legit,
but I mean, even
60% bigger than you, jumping on you all the time.
But I mean, even with us, I mean, as good as Joe Morris was and as fun as he was to watch, he played for us from 82 to 88. Okay, didn't play 89 because of an injury. Didn't play 90 at all. Came back to play a couple of games. I guess he played a full season with, but he only started a couple games with the Browns with, Belichick there at 91. He only had 8 seasons, and one of those was like 2 seasons after he really finished playing. So again, he kind of, as good as his career was, you wonder with these small guys sometimes how long they're going to last for. And I know he had a pretty bad injury towards the end of his career. I want to say it was his foot, if I remember correctly. Again, obviously that's 35 years ago, and I'm in my early 40s, so I could be wrong. It wasn't my heyday of football watching, but I remember watching him as a kid. Fun player. But again, these small guys, you got to be careful with that, because if you overrun them, their career is going to be very, very short. That's for sure. Timothy says, should the Giants select Corum 70th overall from Michigan in the 3rd round? I don't know why his comment doesn't want to stay up on the screen. There we go. I think it depends on a couple of things. It depends on our team scouting report. It also depends on who else is available, what their needs are at that point. I mean, as of right now, the way this team is constructed, I think third or fourth round, you're going to see us probably take a running back. We'll talk about our thoughts on Blake soon. Obviously, he's going to be on this top 10 list here and hasn't come up yet. But, it all depends on the scouting report. If the Giants think he's good and he's worth taking at number 70, then go for it. They have more information than we do. I never like to second guess them in that part where I can help it. We'll second guess them when they take Eric Gray, but overall, for the most part, we try to respect the fact that they have access to information and knowledge that, quite frankly, we don't. But yeah, overall, like I said, we'll talk about Blake in a minute.
We're going to talk about it shortly.
I don't want to talk too much here about him early because he might be coming up next even, but I have mixed feelings. Connor says, "Hey Deb, I talked to Joe Morris when Bruce Beck has his own TV show, I think on MSG. You're right, he was a fun running back to watch back in the day. Little Joe was strong. Yeah, for a little guy, he was like that little chihuahua at that point,
Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, he definitely had that mentality. It's weird to have him and Dave Meggett and people like that in the same team, like these tiny little running backs. That's what it was. And then this Otis Anderson randomly being there, being big. So Otis Anderson was a bigger running back, I want to say.
Yeah, he was. Because, I met him in the greatest story told since Gilgamesh.
Oh, we all know this story. Oh, you know what? Otis Anderson was 6'2", 220, so he was about average size. Maybe just looked bigger because he played next to those guys.
Could be.
Maybe that's what it was at the point, because
but also he was probably 260.
Yeah, I mean, even Rodney Hampton was 6'2", 215, so both of those guys, that kind of size. Let's see. Connor says Corum or Henderson would be good. Timothy says thanks, Connor. Connor says you're welcome, Timothy. Such cordialness in the chat.
Cordial.
Connor says the link not show I posted for Killer, right? And Killer. It probably is on YouTube, but not StreamYard, which is what we used to post all these places at once. And it puts it where we have here's the screen, here's your guys' comments over here on the side. So it
over
just
all the social media platforms.
Yeah, well, not all of them. It doesn't do, I think, LinkedIn. No, it does Twitch.
Right, LinkedIn.
It does
LinkedIn.
Twitch.
We just don't get comments from
and
Twitch.
It does Twitter, but only if you're directly on the Twitter feed, not on one of the chats, whatever they have, the talks, Twitter talks, or whatever they have at that point. So
something like that. Is there threads?
All depends on that. Whatever it's called, I don't know. I'm old. I just put it up there.
You damn weapon snappers and your social medias.
And your socials.
Yeah.
Don't give out your social. All right. Next up there, as I kind of already alluded to at that point, we have...
Nice segue.
Yes. Number 5, Blake Corum. The little looking guy. Look at that. I love when they're like, I'm tough. In these videos.
Doing a Tim Allen Grant.
It was crazy. I saw somebody put on Facebook. I don't know if this is true or not, okay? But they put on a thing saying that JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, is 41 years old, which makes him now older than Tim Allen was when the show started filming.
That's upsetting. But that makes total sense because that was the early 90s.
Yeah, early 90s. That's what I'm saying. It's like 30, a little over 30 years ago, probably now at this point. That was a damn good show, though. Anyway, Blake Corum out of Michigan, 5'8", 205 pounds. Another wee man there, like a bunch of leprechaun running backs we got here. 23 years old. Last season, 15 games, 258 rushes, 1,245 yards, 4.8 yard per carry average, 27 freaking touchdowns.
Whoa.
We're going to go Joey Lawrence. We're going JTT to Joey Lawrence this whole thing. 16 receptions, 117 yards, and 1 touchdown, 84.0 PFF grade. In 12 games, 247 receptions, 1,463 yards. Whatever. Don't you correct me.
That's like I'm reading this or something.
Oh my god. I don't know why I keep on doing that. I've been doing that the whole episode too. Yeah. So anyway, 247 rushes for 1,463 yards, 5.9 yard per carry average, 18 touchdowns, 11 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. Oh, I got through that one right.
You did that beautifully.
Oh, spectacular, like a pro, like a pro.
Majestic.
Yes, that's what I am. I'm a majestic beast. Pros wise, really good vision, ability to make adjustments, and even on the fly at that point, he's really good at that. Just smart cuts overall, and obviously you saw that touchdowns, 27 touchdowns on rushing this season here. So goal line performance definitely highly in the plus category. On the con side, again, smaller. No, his pass pro is not good. Again, that probably results to the fact that he's tiny at that point. Even a safety blitzing is probably bigger than him. Let's be honest. And no receiving. I mean, for as big as a part as he was the integral part. All these Michigan players are trying to shove down our throat, whether it's JJ McCarthy or the receiver, the tight end. All these guys they have at this point, they're trying to shove down our throat as being so good. This is the guy the offense was run around. This is that guy. Here's my problem.
As well.
Here's my problem I have. Guy had what 500 over 500 rushes the last 2 years. He's 23 years old and he's tiny. I feel like you're buying and talk about the tread of the tires. I feel like you're buying used tires.
I was gonna say you're buying a used car with used tires.
Yeah, that's what I feel like when I look at Blake Corum. And, every so often there's people that break the mold, so to speak. But when I have a tiny running back who's a couple years older than a lot of the running backs that are available in this draft as well, and he's gotten that kind of miles on him, I worry about how good he'll be. He'll probably be one of the best running backs in this draft the first year or so.
You also have to think as well, as much as he's did a lot of these, rushes, over 500. Who was his head coach when he was there? One of the better minds in football of the modern football era.
Whoa. That's a little strong of a statement there.
One of the better.
I don't know about
one of the better. Far. One of the better.
Hey, real quick, while you're up there, what did John Harbaugh have for breakfast?
Oh, wait, huh?
I'm just saying. Wow.
Waffles. He's one of the better ones. All right, so he took a crappy.
He's proven himself to be a legitimate NFL coach. He's proven himself to be a legitimate.
I didn't say he was the greatest mind of all time. I said he's one of the better.
This is the greatest man.
I didn't even say one of the greatest of all times or one of the betters of all times. I said he's one of the betters of our generation.
Yeah, I still think that's a little excessive.
Well, listen, he wins where he goes. You can't take that away from him.
I'm not taking it away from him as far as that point. I'm just saying if he's in the NFL like he is now again, I wouldn't put him in the top 5 coaches in the league, would you?
He would probably be teetering around it.
Andy Reid's better.
Yeah, he's better.
Mike Tomlin's better. Kyle Shanahan is better. Andy Reid is better. And that's just off the top of my head.
He did the same thing that Harbaugh did. He took the Niners.
No, because he's done it for multiple years now. Harbaugh was like 1 year really, really good and then left.
He was 3 years and then he got kicked out of the NFL and he took
didn't get kicked out
below
of the NFL.
5.
The players got tired of being yelled at like a child. Yeah, that's why I question.
Well, he took a below 500 San Francisco.
I know. I'm just saying.
Team.
I'm just saying.
And then he's got a high winning percentage in the NFL, and then in Michigan State, just coming off the national championship.
Michigan, not Michigan State.
Yeah. Sorry, Michigan. Sorry. Flustered here.
I know.
Said he's one of the better of modern times.
I was unaware of your passion for Jim Harbaugh.
And then also, you think I'm sitting there
not Harbaugh
touching his butt.
I wasn't saying that. You were kissing it. That's for sure.
I wasn't kissing if I say he's one of the better. That was a softball compliment.
That's excessive. I think that's excessive.
Is he above?
I think his brother's better.
Okay, that's not.
But I'm saying he's already not. I've already listed 5 coaches so far that off the top of my head that are better.
Okay, so let's.
Than him.
List 15 better head coaches in the NFL.
So you're saying he's an above average coach?
I said he's one of the better coaches of our time.
Okay,
that was a softball.
When you say one of the better coaches of our time, that means he's like a legendary coach. When you're saying he's an above average coach, there's a difference.
If I say he's one of the greatest coaches of our modern time, if I say he's a legendary coach of modern time, if I say he was one of the better coaches, means he's better than most, but not all.
I understand that. I'm just saying it's all in the phrasing. If you think you're saying he's better than the average coach, is that what you mean? Or are you meaning he's legendary?
I'm not getting legendary status. Like,
okay, that's what I'm
wins.
saying. So,
he just wins where he goes.
We're on the same page. Your wording is just what threw me. The way you worded it, you was just like you're saying.
It jumped all down my throat. Like you think I was jumping down Jim Harbaugh's throat.
You weren't jumping down his throat. You were jumping up his tuchus.
Oh.
Anyway, Michigan, got to keep in mind, also had some pretty big blockers. 100% a blocker. They have a couple of guys in the on their offensive line. They're going to be going to the NFL as well, so they had a really good line, the whole setup at that point for running the ball. Again, I don't want to take anything away from Blake Corum as far as what he achieved in college, because he achieved great things. He had probably the best rushing season of anyone in college football this year. But again, I can't get away from the size and the amount of mileage already put on those tires. I think he'll hit the ground running in the NFL, though I think he's going to be taken out in third downs. And it's just weird for a guy to see him, the first two downs when he's 5'8" and 205 pounds. Like, if that's not the quintessential size of a third down back.
Yeah.
And again, he's got the vision, he's got the football IQ and everything, the stuff you want. But if has issue in pass protection and can't catch the ball, and he's a smaller guy, how many times he'd be run up the gut before he gets hurt? Like I said, I just think he's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. And no matter how good he starts in this league, and it'll probably start off pretty decent. Again, he's not a bad runner. He's a smart runner. At one point, he's going to get hurt because he has to play like a big running back, and he's just not. It's what he is. So, all right. Let's get into a little more positive here because, and we forgot to say, second round is what I think for him. I don't agree with I don't agree with mid. But I think someone's going to take him in the second round purely because of what he did at Michigan.
I think he's going to be a mid-rounder.
Yeah, like I said, I think he should be. He should be a third. I think a third round pick myself, but I think somebody will take him in that second round. I just think that. Like I said, I have a couple people listed here that I think will probably go before him. Go after him, that I think are better than him, personally. So let's go over that next person here, because obviously number 4 is graded higher. Number 4, Audric Estime. You see him getting slammed people down to the ground. I love that. Old school smash mouth. I'm going to beat the crap out of you kind of football. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. The hunchback from Notre Dame here. 5'11", 221 pounds. Still just 20 years old. Turns 21, though, in September. So he's not quite as young as Braylon Allen there. But still very young. Last year, 12 games. 210 rushes, 1,341 yards. That's a 6.4 yards per carry average, 18 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 142 yards, and a 94.2 PFF grade. This guy, to me, is probably the most underrated running back in this entire draft. There's a couple of guys, obviously he's at number 4, so I have a couple of guys, obviously, I think that are better overall. But this is that guy that I think really has the potential, because of his age, because of his productivity at Notre Dame, that, let's be honest, Notre Dame is one of those schools that plays a lot of good schools every year, because it's a big football, contract at that point to get on TV with Notre Dame. You want to play at Notre Dame. It brings you notoriety. And again, 1,300 yards. He had more touchdowns. I said more yards than Blake Corum. He was 1.6 yards per carry better than Blake Corum. And granted, he had some great tackles. We talked about 2 of the 15 tackles in our in our conversation about tackles in this draft were from Notre Dame. So he had the same great offensive line that Corum had as well. I'm not trying to take that part away and ignore that fact, because if you ignore that, you're just being a hypocrite at that point.
Pretty much.
But he did have an amazing season. And you didn't hear about Notre Dame too much as a passing team. They were a running team this year. And this is who ran the ball for them and had a really good showing of doing it. Prior year in 22, 13 games, 156 rushes, 920 yards, 5.9 yards per carry. So still a very high yards per carry average there. 11 touchdowns, 9 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdowns. As far as the pros, very physical, very powerful runner. You saw there where we're showing the picture. And I actually think that's 2 different angles of the same play. I should say that. I loved when I saw those. I was like, yes, that's old school football. Yeah. That's what I freaking love. Yeah, like I'm just going to put my hand out, stiff arm you, and then knock you down to the ground. And that's exactly what it did to that guy. Patient, good at pass blocking. As far as the cons for him, he's had more than the average fumbles. He definitely has to have somebody teach him a little bit still on ball security, though he's been getting better at that. Stiff hips. So he's definitely that guy that where he's going, because he just doesn't have that ability, that shiftiness in his body as he's going there. He's doing a little boom, 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 boom. It's all in the hips, the K-Chubs. He also lacks the home run threat speed. So he's not a guy that's going to run down the field for 80-yard touchdowns at that point and go crazy at that point. But you don't need that. I think, to me, that's so overplayed in this league. It really is. Like, are those plays great? Yes, they're spectacular. Don't get me wrong. They're fun to watch. They're a great pickup for the team overall. But even the greatest home run threat guys, how often do they do that? 2-3 times a season?
Maybe, yeah.
I'll take a guy who's going to consistently get 5-6 yards a carry. Call me crazy.
So crazy.
May not be as exciting, but it's a whole lot more effective long term. So, I think Aldrich's going to probably go in the 3rd round. I think that's where he's going to end up going at that point. But like I said, he's that guy that if you need a guy to potentially be a stud running back and you're into that 3rd, 4th round kind of area and he's still available, there's no guarantee he's going to be a stud. Don't get me wrong. But he has stud potential.
When you're talking, 2,300 yards in 2 years? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, he's got a tough Notre Dame schedule. Like, all right.
Yeah. So I'm saying,
I think with that he's probably going to go in the 3rd round, probably like maybe late in the 2nd, but probably high in the 3rd.
I mean, he could sneak in a second. It depends on how quick other people go, because there's a couple guys I have here going in probably the 2nd, 3rd range at that point there. Basically, everybody left. And, yeah, it all depends on what he does, as far as what time these guys go, what time he'll go. Because somebody's going to go, okay, hold on. The big 3 are gone. Here's my next 100%. Guy. And they're going to take either Blake or Aldrich at that point, one of these two at that point, or maybe even Trey. But I think Trey is, one notch down from these guys. And again, this football is very much like that. People draft with needs in mind. I hate that. It's so stupid. It's not even funny. That's why I love some of the moves the Giants have made this offseason. We're trying to make it we don't have any needs. We may have wants and desires and upgrades we'd love to have, but not needs.
Yeah, big difference.
Quarterback, that's a whole separate thing.
Well.
Anyway. So yeah, like I said, Aldrich estimate. I think he's going to be a good player in this league. There, just see if he reaches that full potential at that point. But at the very least, he's going to be a good committee guy to have at that point. Best case scenario, he's the guy who becomes 1,000-yard rusher in this league. He has that potential. So, all right, number three. We have Bucky, not to be confused with the guy from Captain America, Irving. Another little guy there. He's so tiny. They're all
He's
so
a weak
tiny.
guy.
They're all so tiny. 5'9", 192 pounds, guys. That's how small he is. Out of Oregon, played at the last 2 seasons, started his career in 21 over in Minnesota, don't you know?
Don't you know?
Just 21 years old, though, so he's still got some good youth to him at that point there. Last year, 14 games, 186 rushes for 1,180 yards. That's a 6.3 yards per carry average, 11 touchdowns, 56 receptions, 413 yards, 2 touchdowns at 88.2 PFF grade. This guy, of everybody we've talked about here, probably has the highest potential of a full, complete, like third down kind of guy at that point that you can throw in there, and be in all three at that point. Run up the middle occasionally we need to be, throw it on the outside on the screen routes and stuff like that. This guy does that kind of stuff that you want in like the modern passing NFL. So, I think he's going to be pretty highly touted in this draft because of that. Prior year, 13 games, 156 rushes, 1,058 yards, 6.8 yards per carry average, 5 touchdowns, 31 receptions for 299 yards, and 3 touchdowns. As far as the pros for him, great contact balance. He's a guy that for some reason, and you wouldn't think at his size he's got that, but when you hit him, he has that ability to just kind of shift at the right spot there to try either slip the tackle or at the very least fall forward. He always falls forward. There's certain guys that just have that ability, and you get that extra yard or two because you fell forward. He always seems to fall forward. Highly elusive, good hands, good ball security. As far as the knocks on him, first thing obviously is, again, he's small. He's tiny. He can't get around that. He's a little tiny little guy there. He's not very good in pass protection. And again, if you're counting on a guy who's 192 pounds to be good in pass protection, that's on you. I'm sorry, but that's on you at that point. Again, the corners are bigger than him. I say it joking around, but it's the truth.
At least he's going to have a cool nickname.
Yeah. Bucky. His actual
the Winter
name.
Soldier.
Oh, you're going to call him the Winter Soldier? I'd go for it.
Listen, he played in Oregon and Minnesota.
Oh. You got the Oregon Trail.
Ooh, he survived it.
He also lacks long speed at that point. So in other words, he's good on a burst, but we talk again. I hate to kind of seem like I'm like knocking the guys. I keep bringing them up. Like, remember we talked about Saquon? Like year one, he'd kind of take everything to the house when he got open holes, and towards the end of his Giants career, you see kind of some guys kind of catch up to him at times. Bucky's definitely one of those guys that people do catch up to him typically because he starts getting a little winded. He'd probably be really good at the 100-yard dash, not at the mile. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Like,
well, maybe not 100-yard dash because then he'll be running from one side to the other.
I know. I'm just you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to say like that. Like he's good at quick short routes at that quick burst at that point. But if you want him to maintain a top speed for a long time, it's just not what he does. I think he's going to probably go, I think, second to third round at that point is where I got him at. I think he's a second-round talent all day long. I really do. I think this is the guy that if he's utilized correctly, I'm not trying to say that I say he's Marshall Faulk or Tiki Barber, like that kind of, talent. But he's a true 50-50 guy that can run the ball and he can catch the ball. If I had to give like a comparison on who I think he is in this league, and listen, if he is, it's a really good pickup for somebody. And I'm going to say Austin Eckler, that kind of player. That's the kind of player this guy has the potential to be. I don't think he'll ever be a 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard rusher at that point, but I think he's the guy who's going to get you, 600 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving at that point, and get you over 1,000 total yards on a year in, year out basis if you give him the touches to do it, and he stays healthy. With that size, I have to say that if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I was going to say if he stays healthy.
Yeah, but that's the kind of potential this guy has. I really think he's got that kind of ability. So we'll see if I'm wrong or see if I'm crazy for saying something like that. Keep in mind, he also was being the running back with the check down king himself in Bo Nix. So that's part of the reason he has so many receptions and so many receiving yards at that point. But if you look at what he did things with it. Wasn't like he just kind of sat around and goes, okay, caught the ball and just fell down. 56 receptions, 413 yards. It's not a bad turnout as a running back, because those guys aren't getting the ball 10, 15 yards down the field like a wide receiver is. They're usually getting a 3 or 4 and trying to run up and get some yak afterwards. Or
behind the line of scrimmage.
yeah, exactly. On the screen, 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage or something like that. Yeah. You're right, 100%. So, yeah. All right. Number two. Uno, dos. Jaylen Wright. All righty. Jaylen Wright there came from an interesting scenario there coming out of Tennessee. So remember last year, they were a prolific offense. They had, a couple receivers, including our own Jalen Hyatt, get drafted. They had Hendon Hooker, who was one of the better quarterbacks, but unfortunately tore his ACL late in the season, which is what kind of killed his draft stock. And now he's a backup quarterback for the Lions. But that's the kind of situation it came out of. And they didn't feature him quite as much as far as need-wise. They kind of like, here you go, run the ball for a couple yards, then we'll pass the ball. That was kind of his role. This year, he had to take more of a step up at that point and be kind of one of the lead pieces of this offense there. And he definitely did step up. Jalen's 5'10", 210 pounds, 21 years old. So still not bad on the age or the size at that point. This last season here, 12 games, 137 rushes, 1,013 yards. It's 7.4 yards per carry average, 4 touchdowns, 22 rushes, 141 yards, a 91.0 PFF grade. That's pretty goddamn good.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's really good. And we'll get into the pros here, but this is part of why I like this guy a lot. You're going to find out in a minute here. The season before, 13 games, 146 rushes, 874 yards. That's a 6.0 yards per carry average, 19 touchdowns. Think about that for a second. 146 rushes, 19 touchdowns. This tells you what his role was. Cleanup duty when the receiver got stopped on the 2-yard line.
Pretty much.
Yeah. 2 receptions, 8 yards, and that's all as far as the rush, the receiving. He wasn't much of a receiving because, again, they had so many good receivers at Tennessee that year. Here's the thing with him. He's extremely patient. He's a physical runner, and he's really good at pass protection. The downfalls of him is he lacks some of the explosiveness you see some of the other guys we talked about there. He's a little bit light still, I think, for his size at that point, for what he plays, because, again, he's a physical guy. I wouldn't mind him adding like 5-10 pounds if he can without slowing down too bad. He's got the occasional vision issues as well, where he just doesn't see the hole pop up at that point. He doesn't see the guy sitting there about to pop out to go ahead and hit him and clog up the hole. But, guys, this is a guy, again, 7.4 yards per carry average last year. In the SEC, it's Tennessee. It's not West Tennessee Christian Polytech University. This is Rocky Top, man. This is a legit season in the SEC. This is respectable in every single way, shape, and form. And again, this is the guy who did it without a ton of yards. We talked about Blake Corum having about 500 rushes over 2 seasons. Was that the number I think we gave, right?
Yeah, a little over 500.
Yeah, a little over 500. Jaylen Wright, not even 300. And he's 21 years old. So he's 2 years younger with a whole lot more tread on the tires. And he's got a much higher yard per carry average. played in a tougher conference. Again, I don't say these things to disparage or try to put down Blake Corum. I just keep on hearing people act like this guy is like some stud is going to walk into the NFL and run the place for some reason. And it's weird. I don't get it. I feel like it's people who are passive football fans that saw the national championship game and are like, oh, yeah.
He had a great game.
Like Corum, he was great in the national championship game. He's the guy. Like, guys, you got to watch the whole thing. And I again, Rob and I both admit freely we're not the guys who sit there every Saturday watching college football. But what we do is when the season's over, we go back and actually watch these guys. And we watch a lot of tape on these guys. We watch them with no preconceived notions on who is best or better at that point there. We just purely go by the eye test and what we see.
Yeah.
That's it.
Once again, we're not biased to one team or another because I really don't watch college ball.
Yeah. There's no Rutgers people here.
Yeah.
So I think Jersey boys are usually biased towards. I'm telling you, Jaylen Wright is, if there is a lock for a guy to step in next season and have a really productive season and be a potential rookie of the year, Jaylen Wright is that guy in my mind from this group. And you'd heard me talk about Bucky, and I like Bucky a lot, but I don't think Bucky is going to be the amount of rushing yards and all that it takes from that. I think people like him on fantasy. Bucky Irving is like the rookie fantasy, player of the year, basically kind of guy. But Jaylen Wright has got that potential to be the offensive player of a rookie of the year at that point there from the running back group. Let's be honest, it'll probably go to a wide receiver or a quarterback because that's the top guys in this draft overall. But Jaylen Wright's going to have an impressive rookie season if given the shot and given a good system at that point there. I have him going in the second round, but I can see a team sneaking up that thinks they're running back away and taking him late in the first, even at that point there. I don't think it'll happen though, but I can see the thought process and understand it. I can't think of a team off the top of my head that would need him like that either, though, because you got a guy like we know the Ravens 101. Well, now they got Derrick Henry. The Chiefs, you could sit there and say, but they need a receiver so bad they'll probably take a receiver at that point as opposed to trying to get a pairing with Isaiah Pacheco. So yeah, probably will last until the second round, and then somebody's going to take him, and someone's going to get a damn good player in the second round, I think. All right. Yeah. On to number one. The one, the only, Johnathon Brooks. All righty. And this one, I'm telling you, this is the guy that I almost didn't put here at number one. I almost put Jaylen Wright at number one. And the main reason why is because of what we're about to talk about here.
I was going to say.
There's a big injury risk here. He tore his ACL in November. And this guy was on pace to be probably a first round running back selection. That's how good his last season was. And again, he comes from Texas. Texas has got a little bit of a history, especially recently with guys like Bijan Robinson last year coming out. He was the third running back last year, keep in mind. And then all of a sudden this year, took over and just beast mode. But he's a good all-around back. And I got to say, watching his tape, I had to nitpick to find issues I didn't like in his play, in his way he played. And if it wasn't for this injury, he'd be the automatic number one for me. And again, he'd be a guy that I think is going to be coming out in the first round. I think a lot of things now we have to, again, depend on the medical. And like I tell you guys, every time we do one of these, we go under the assumption there's no medical flags, everything is good, and everything is healing correctly. If it is, it happened in November, you could see him start the season potentially. You can see him miss a couple of games potentially at that point. But you can also sit there and say that no matter what he does this year, it probably won't be as good as he will be next year.
Correct. I was going to say, we've talked about this on the show quite a few times, but guys coming back after ACL surgery, 98% of the time, 98.5% of the times, they take a step back. They take a step slower. It takes a while to rebuild, especially 8-10 months for full recovery.
Yeah,
Granted,
I mean, again, unless they're freaks of nature, which you just don't know. That's what we don't have. We don't know what kind of healing abilities, Johnathon Brooks has. Some guys are like freaking Wolverine. Look at like AP when he did it. He was like back the next year in 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I was about to say he was back to where he was, but he's also, Jonathan's turned 21 in July, so he's young,
really young. Yeah.
So a lot of guys that age heal a lot faster compared to someone if Derrick Henry tears his ACL. It's going to take him the full year to come back.
Yeah, so again, you have to look at the medicals. You have to have your medical staff check him out at that point and see what you think, and that's definitely part of this equation here. Size-wise, 6 foot even, 215 pounds, so not horrible size there by any means. Last year, 11 games, 187 rushes for 1,139 yards. That's a 6.1 yard per carry average. 10 touchdowns, 25 receptions for 285 yards. And 1 touchdown, a 91.5 PFF grade, guys.
Oh, that's it? Huh.
That's, again, we're talking SEC guys, these last 2 guys. SEC, like they're doing the best of the best at that point they're going against.
The best.
Yeah, like these are the better defenses that are facing week in, week out in this league. On the 22, I forgot to go over here. 7 games, 30 rushes. As I said, he was just the third string running back last year in 22. So 30 rushes, 197 yards, a 6.6 yard per carry average, 5 touchdowns, 2 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown. On the pro wise, size, good play speed as well. He's got that ability. Like some guys have it where it's like they have 0 and they have 60, and that's all they have. This guy has 0 through 60. Like he can adjust and play down to what speed he needs to based on how long the hole's taking to go, how long it's taking for a blocker to go ahead and get to somebody at that point. He's really got that kind of ability. He's got great vision. He's extremely patient. This is a very high football IQ, guys. As far as the cons, though, he's not very good in pass protection. Now, he's got the size to do it. Again, he hasn't really played before this year. And I think that's a lot of what it is. A lot of these guys, when they come to the NFL, they have 1 or 2 years starting and that's it. And they need to learn that in the NFL because that takes time and that takes repetition to learn at that kind of quality. So I do think that's going to go ahead and get fixed with time with him there. But for right now, it goes in the cons. He also isn't the greatest as far as power moves at that point there. If that hole is clogged at that point, he needs it there. If he goes to the team that has the right offensive line that can actually open up holes for him, he's going to have a beast season once ever he's back to full healthy, whether it's this year or next. If he goes to a team that doesn't have the best offensive line, he's going to have to get a little better at kind of helping create those holes at that point by bum rushing the hole there at that point. But let's be honest, he played at Texas. He had some good offensive line. He had good running schemes. This is a team that always have good running backs. He didn't need to showcase that kind of ability there at Texas. So again, he might have it. We just haven't seen it.
Yep,
so
correct.
Like I said, and this is all nitpicking. Like I said, you watch this guy. It's like perfect. Hit the hole at the right time. Take the cut at the right time. There's just something fun about watching Johnathon Brooks at that point. And I'm really, really hoping that he comes back to full strength this season. I'm hoping he comes back to being the guy that we all think he was prior to this injury at that point. Because he's going to be fun to watch in the NFL, assuming he doesn't go to one of our rivals.
Yeah, as long as he's not in Dallas somewhere, somewhere over there.
Oh my God, can you imagine? That's like a Dallas move at that point. Take the top running back when you need a running back who went to Texas.
It 100% would be.
Oh my God.
Hey, I would love to have this guy on my fantasy team. So here's to you going to Vegas.
They did lose Josh Jacobs. They might be interested. You never know. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I have him second, third round is where I think he's going to go still. just because of the injury. And again, I'm putting assuming everything's correct on his medical, he'll go second round, no problem. If there's any flags, he's going to drop to the third round, probably.
It's going to be a Hooker situation.
Yeah, it's got to be. And it sounds bad that we just worded that.
As soon as I said it, I went, yeah.
It's going to be a Hooker kind of
situation.
Connor. Tell us more about this Hooker situation. No, but I mean, that's where it boils down to. But the difference with him and a guy like Hooker at that point is Hooker was a quarterback. So you only have one quarterback usually that plays per season at that point, assuming no injuries. Whereas a running back, you could put him in starting in a rotational thing, and maybe next year feature him as a running back at that point if you decide to go that route. The other thing is that Hooker was also coming out, I think it was 24 when he came out of college?
Yeah, I think so.
Whereas Brooks is 20.
I mean,
no, I'm just saying that's some of the differences we're looking at between the two scenarios.
Yeah, I agree with you. You made an excellent point too. It's like he could go somewhere to sit behind running back that's under fifth year option that it's going to have to get paid where they don't want to pay him. And you got a guy that you don't have to rely on this year, but next year you got the replacement.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now to see. I'm curious now who is set to be a free agent next year in 2025. Nick Chubb. Wow, I can see the Browns taking him. Hell's yeah, the Browns taking him with that offensive line. Are you kidding me? Nick Chubb. You don't know what he's coming back. What he's coming back from at that point either. So you have two guys. You just hope one of the two is healthy. James Conner. James Conner is almost 30 at that point over Arizona. The Vikings with Aaron Jones, they tied him to a 1-year deal. The Vikings could be an interesting option. They do have
Arizona's got the third pick and then
second round. They're going to go.
Yeah, they're
going to go in the second round.
All the way back.
He's not going to be the first round.
Oh no, I'm not saying he's going to be. I'm not saying he's going to be first round. I'm just saying. You think he's going to be available at the very tail end of the second round?
I don't know. Like I said, a lot of it depends on his medical, and that's the problem. We don't know. I joked around before about Miami, but even Miami actually is not the worst move possible because Raheem Mostert is going to be a free agent after this season, and he's going to be 33.
Yeah,
he's getting up there. So, yeah, there's a lot of places I could see him go, that's not the craziest theory in the world there.
Yeah, Mostert didn't play like a 33-year-old last year.
No, he's defying the laws of football physics at that point with his age and his abilities at that point there. Yeah. But listen, in the end, Father Time always wins. There's a a couple places I can see him go. Brooks there at that point, but like I said, I think he's the guy that I tell you, if he was healthy, he'd be the one guy I would say in this draft is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber like running back at that point there. I really like him that much. Because of the injuries, I'm going to say I don't know what's going to happen with him. Jaylen Wright, like I said, again,
when you're talking ACL,
Austin. Yeah, like I said, Jaylen Wright is going to be that guy who I think is going to be that right around that 1,000-yard kind of rusher at that point there. I don't think he's ever to be, again, one of the top 5 running backs. He'll be an above average running back probably his whole career. Again, Bucky Irving, probably going to be an Austin Eckler type at that point. Let's be honest, though, again, putting that kind of thought process into a guy coming out of college like that that's never played the pros is a little crazy. So we're probably saying like the wish version, maxing out at what Austin Eckler is right now. I mean, like I said, you got some good names here. It's just, again, you don't have the massive names. And I think people got to understand that if you go out and get some of these guys in the draft, you need to committee them. You just got to committee them. You got to go, okay, this is a fast guy. Now we need a strong guy. Or this is a strong guy. Now we need a fast guy. And understand that, this is a guy who can catch. Now we need a guy who can get the goal line touchdown. Or this is a guy who's a straight line runner, but he's not good at catching the ball, and you'll get a receiving. Whatever the limitations are to the person you select in this draft, you have to have somebody to handcuff them with to have a complete running back between the two of them. That's what it boils down to. Unless you get Irving, Wright, or Brooks. But even Irving, I'd probably want to put him like a smash mouth, like a big guy at that point for goal line situations and short line.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, it's going to be interesting. I say interesting group overall because there's going to be some maneuvering, and it's going to be based on who you like the best at that point. And I think, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes these people might get drafted based on who's the best fit for your team, not necessarily who the best player is. Because let's say, for example, when you're in the 4th round and Braylon Allen is the best guy for you at that point, and you're the Vikings, well, you just got, King Henry. Do you want to get another guy who smashes the ball down the middle?
Yeah, no. Or the Ravens, yeah. Gotcha.
Or do you want to go out and get a guy like Will Shipley later on at that point to handcuff him with and be a different kind of guy? Like I say, it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be some moves based on that kind of stuff there. So, all righty, guys. That concludes our top 10 running backs here. Let's see. We got a couple more comments here from Connor. So let's let him see his piece here. Connor says, "Buck this." Says, "I like college football when there's competition because running easily isn't going to make you great in the NFL." Yeah, college football is fun, but to me, it's a different game than it is in and it's weird to a certain degree because you see guys like, we just obviously ended the show here talking about Johnathon Brooks. Here's a guy who would have started for most teams last year, in 22, and didn't get the chance and sat behind 2 guys who got drafted, and now here is in 23. Being looked at as potentially the best running back in this draft, depending on the medicals.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. He says, Hooker, where, what, how much? You can't afford Hooker. And then Hooker has a very big trade value. We've already talked about it.
Very expensive.
Kind of says winning easily, sorry. All righty. So, guys, rest of this week here. We're going to be back here Wednesday for you guys. We're going to do another one of the mock drafts here, going through all 7 rounds of the NFL draft here, what the Giants should do. Now that it's, again, post-free agency, we've heard some of the rumors, which, again, keep in mind, rumors are rumors. Everybody's talking about it. There's smoke screens always. You may not like everything Joe Shane does, but this man is very good at smoke screens. I would not play poker with him. Remember a couple of years ago, everybody hates Kayvon. Kayvon's not a good fit. Kayvon's got an attitude problem. Who do we get? First pick, Kayvon Thibodeau. Last year, Giants need a receiver. Giants are getting a receiver. They're going to find a way to get a receiver. Who we draft? A corner, the complete opposite of receiver. Do not believe things you hear in the media. It is put out there to F with you. If you look, ever since the Giants kept talking about J.J. McCarthy, now the rumors are getting stronger and stronger. The Vikings will move up and possibly trade up with the Cardinals or somebody like that at number 4 to take J.J. McCarthy. And you know what? I think it's 100% showmanship on Joe Shane's part. I don't. He wants J.J. McCarthy. I think he wants one of the 2 big receivers, whether it be Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. No offense to Rome Odunze, but he is definitely 3rd in that group of 3. Whereas the other 2 get fought over as 1A, 1B at that point. So I think this is all showmanship, and I think he's doing a damn good job by that, by the way. So again, we'll be doing our mock draft at that point on Wednesday. And we're allowing trades. We're allowing trades, but only if the trades make sense to do. We're not doing crazy, like, let's do a trade every single pick like 3 times. Nothing crazy, like a couple of trades, like a typical Joe Shane draft would have. Let's be honest, that's what Joe Shane does. He does a couple of trades. He moves up and down as he needs to get the players he wants. Thursday, we're going to do something a little special there because there's a lot of players. I don't know if you've realized. We've talked about it a little bit with the receivers here. There's a lot of players that come from famous daddies that played in the NFL.
They have a lineage.
I mean, look at the receiver group alone. We didn't even talk about all the receivers. In the receiver group alone, you have the son of Jerry Rice, Marvin Harrison, Terrell Owens, Ed McCaffrey. I mean, that's a pretty damn group. I mean, Ed McCaffrey, I hate to say it, he had a good NFL career, but he's not even in the category of the three. The three are like three of the top 5 wide receivers of all time.
Mm.
And that's just in the receiver group. You got guys like Fred Gore Jr., Chris Jenkins, Jeremiah Trotter. There's a lot of big names that have kids that are in this NFL draft here, guys. So we're going to go over them. There's 12 altogether. We're going to go over all of those guys via Thursday and give you a heads up on how they are and explain who the daddy is. So we'll see you guys Wednesday. We'll see you guys Thursday. Again, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time there. So as always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, Instagram, when I remember to hit the button, which I did today. Hello, Instagram.
Ooh.
And of course, Rob's favorite. Oh, yeah.
Drew's LinkedIn page.
My LinkedIn profile. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, as always, we are available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms there. So iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, which we got like 2/3 of our hit on Apple. So if you're on Spotify, do me a favor, give us a download. We will want to get more on the Spotify there. Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, all the big ones there. So if you haven't already, please do go do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share, hit that bell if you're on YouTube there. So we've had a lot of new listeners lately. Definitely appreciate you guys there. If you haven't already, tell a friend. That's how we spread it. We don't spend $1 on advertising. Everything's word of mouth there. So much appreciated. And we always bring you guys 3 to 4 shows a week. I don't know how many of the other podcasts do a guaranteed, like we're going to do 3 or 4 live shows a week. There's really not many out there, guys.
Yeah.
But here we are. We're here like schlubs, just
Goofing
giving you guys
off.
info after info after info there. So, but we appreciate you guys there. Whether you're guys like, that are hiding in the corners listening, and that's fine if you don't want to participate, or if you're guys, that want to participate, like, Connor, Devin, people like that, Timothy, people that are here on a regular basis at that point. Appreciate you all either way. So we'll see you guys again Wednesday. Like I said, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for probably our second to last mock draft. We'll probably do one more like a day or two beforehand that we did last year as well. But I want to go over this one here because I have a plan.
Ooh.
Oh, yes. I have a plan. So I would release that plan on Wednesday for $1 million. Dun, dun, dun. All right, Giant fans. As always, go J-Man! Go J-Man!
J-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.